The results section is where you report your data analyses. In my experience, there are two challenges to writing this section. First, you have to decide which analyses to present and in which order. This is not a trivial task because there is no limit to the number of tests you could conduct on any dataset. Second, you have to report the analyses in a standardized way so that the reader understands the analyses you did. The latter part is easier because there are standard ways of reporting tests. Deciding on which test to report and in which order is the real challenge. If you created a pre-registration document before you ran your study, then you have already created a data analysis plan. And that plan is going to make your life a lot easier as you write the results section, because in that plan you will have stated which tests you plan to run. And so those are the tests that you will put in your results section. If you haven't created a pre-registration document, then you have to do a little bit more work to justify the choices that you make. Now, do you remember at the end of the introduction, the authors described their hypotheses? Well, every hypothesis should have at least one test reported about it. If we go back to the results section now, you can see that they have broken the results section down into different sections that correspond to each hypothesis. In a more general sense, you never want to just list analyses. Always explain what you are trying to understand by running the test. For example, don't just state the correlation between variable A and variable B was 0.4. Instead, write, in order to examine the relationship between variable A and variable B, we conducted a correlation. We'll discuss more about the appropriate way of describing every test, but the general rule is to tell the reader which test was conducted, which variables were part of the test, the result of the test, including the p-value if there is one, and any appropriate effect size statistics. For example, when reporting a correlation test, tell the reader the type of test. In this case, Pearson's R. Then tell the reader the p-value. For t-tests, you would provide more information, like this. An independent samples t-test was conducted to test for differences in implicit prejudice between participants in the experimental and control conditions. The t-test was significant. T, with 200 degrees of freedom, was equal to 5.60. The p-value was equal to 0.002. And the effect size, in this case Cohen's d, was equal to 0.4. So the type of test was a t-test, the value of the test was 5.6, the p-value was 0.002, and the size of the effect was 0.4. Participants in the experimental condition had less implicit prejudice than participants in the control condition. It's important to add that final sentence, because you don't want to just report that there was a difference between two groups. You want to explain which group was higher and which group was lower, which group was greater, which group was lesser.